Over the past few years, I have put in thousands of hours into Skywars, having over 15,000 kills and 1,500 wins. In this video, I'm breaking down everything I have learned, from high-level tips only top players know to some of the most basic and effective techniques out there. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. So, the first tip is simple. Stop bridging.
But you cannot go across the map without bridging.
Wrong. Use block extension. I have been saying this forever, and somehow people still don't get it. No Skywars map actually requires you to bridge. Just jump and clutch. And if it's a bigger gap, just tower up 2 to 3 blocks, then jump and clutch. It's faster, it's safer, and it keeps your momentum. Stop wasting your time like that, nerd. Anyways, let me show you all how it's actually done. Okay, so here's how you all can actually practice it. First, you need to have almost 100% accuracy with one block extensions. That's the most important one. Then you have to get fairly consistent with two block extensions. Now for three block extensions, you honestly won't really need them at Skywars. So there's no need to grind them unless you're really good at the game. Okay, moving on to tip number 2. You have probably been looting completely wrong. Let me explain. When you open a chest, you don't want to just stand there like a stationary object. That's basically an invitation for someone to kill you. Instead, you want to starve around while looting. Or even better, open the chest and instantly move on to the next chest while looting that one. This keeps you unpredictable and harder to hit. Now, this does require really good environmental awareness, and you will need to train your movement to pull it off properly. Another thing that helps a lot with this is higher FOV because it lets you see more around you while looting, which makes it way easier to react if someone rushes you. Alright, moving on to tip number 3, when to loot and when to rush. Honestly, I cannot give you a perfect rule for when you should rush. Every game is different and it mostly comes down to game sense. But I will say this, if you are in a lobby with good players, you usually don't wanna rush too early. Maybe on a small map you can go for a side rush and try to kill the player next to you. But most of the time in a good player lobby, the smarter play is to get stacked first. Get your armor, get your gear, and then take fights when you're actually ready. Because rushing without looting against good players is basically just throwing the game. Alright, now for tip number 4. This is something we have actually talked about before, field of view. Most of you already know that higher FOV gives you a big advantage in Skywars, but the game actually caps it at 160. However, I made a video showing how to break that cap and even go up to 500 FOV. I will definitely recommend watching that video after this one. I'll leave the link in the description. Personally, I recommend using around 180 FOV because not only does it help a lot with looting, it also gives you a much clearer view of the map and the positions of other players, which makes it way easier to track fights. Alright, now for tip number 5, and this one is the big one. Modes matter a lot. You can't play every Skywars mode the same way. For example, in Knockback Knockout, you want to get a stick as fast as possible and then just abuse the knockback. In Lifesteal, your main goal should be getting as many kills as possible because every kill gives you more HP, which can make you insanely tanky. In Lucky Mode, what you want to do is get the floor creator item, grab an iron pickaxe, and start mining for full gold gear. Then there's Aura Overload. In that mode, you either want to get a gold or diamond sword and enchant it, or enchant a stick and abuse the knockback. And finally, Golem Gauntlet. A lot of players forget this, but if you die to the Golem, you can actually respawn. So if you're really low HP, it can actually be smarter to die to the Golem instead of letting another player kill you, because that way you get another chance in the game. And yeah, I know I missed a lot of game mods, but those are the less significant ones, so the strategy doesn't change too much there, such as like food game mod and overpowered game mod. Alright, now moving on to tip number 6, which is kits. Now, first of all, there isn't really a single best kit, especially after kits got nerfed. But there are some really solid ones. For example, healer is good, tank is also really solid. Baseballer is great for modes like knockback, knockout, and aura overload because you can abuse the knockback. Then, of course, there is knight, which is my main kit. Model is also pretty solid if you want to play defensive. And then there is Troll. Honestly, Troll might be the most balanced kit here because it can work in a lot of different situations. So instead of trying to find the best kit overall, you must choose your kit according to the game mode which is going to be selected. Alright, now moving on to tip number 7, perks. First, let's talk about the spawn perk. This one has a pretty clear choice, which is speed. Defense used to be a solid option too, but it kind of fell off after the maps became larger. So right now speed is basically the best choice. Now let's talk about the one kill perks. There are a few really solid options here. For example, Baker, which is the one I personally use. Then there is Arrowhead, which can be comboed really well with Frost from the 3 kill perks. If you are a bow user, this is the combo you need to use. Another good combo is Baker plus Lifesteal from the 3 kill perk, and then Bridger plus Inferno is also a pretty solid combo. At the end of the day, though, you should just pick whichever combo feels the best for your playstyle. Alright, now for tip number 8, aim. Aim is extremely important, obviously. But it's not just for fighting, it also helps with block extensions and honestly the entire game in general. That's why I made a tutorial video showing how to get a non-pulsing crosshair, which a lot of top players use. Let me show you what it actually does. The normal crosshair changes size whenever you click. It basically pulses, but the custom crosshair stays completely still, which can really improve your aim and consistency. I'll attach the tutorial video in the description, so definitely check that out after this video if you want to try it yourself. Alright, now moving on to tip number 9, which is movement. You need some goated movement to be good at Skywars. And it's not as simple as normal sword PvP. Because in Skywars, you don't just have to win fights, you have to win them while taking as little damage as possible. Since it's not a 1v1, it's basically a 11 versus 1. You are fighting multiple players throughout the game, so if you take too much damage in early fights, you'll just get cleaned later. That's why movement matters so much. You need good starting and good dodging skills so you get hit as little as possible while still dealing damage. The better your movement is, the longer you survive and the more fights you can win. Alright, now for the last one, tip number 10. And honestly, this one is the most important one. Experience. You improve slowly over time. Now, I'm not saying you cannot get better overnight. You definitely can. But there's a limit to how much you can improve that quickly. At some point, you'll stop improving because you simply lack experience. Game sense can't really be taught, it can only be learned by playing. So just grind Skywars for a couple of weeks and you'll slowly start teaching yourself and developing your own game sense. Anyways, if you learned anything new from this video, do consider subscribing because technically this video took me years to make. And if this video hits 100 likes, I'll make a tips video for Bed Wars 2. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.